Good evening. In the news tonight, efforts continue to build a community center in Vincennes, and it looks like senators are taking a spring break without a breakthrough on immigration law.
In sports, former IU coach Mike Davis has landed another coaching job, and round 2 of the Masters is underway in Augusta.
Newscenter 22 is next. Our tornado watch is in effect until 8 p.m. Central Time for portions of southwest Indiana and southeast Illinois. Indiana counties in the watch area include Knox, Davies, Sullivan, Gibson, Pike, Posey, DuBois, Warwick, and Vanderburgh. In Illinois, Lawrence, Crawford, Richland, Edwards, Wabash, and White are among the counties in the watch area. Tornadoes, 2.5-inch hail, thunderstorm wind gusts to 70 miles an hour, and intense lightning are possible in these areas. Amy Reef will have more on our weather later in the newscast. The Knox County Development Corporation Board is mulling over a request to fund part of a proposed $1.2 million community center in Vincennes. The 25,000 square foot building would be located in Highland Woods near the intersection of Hart Street and the new Beer House Connector Road. Supporters say the facility is needed due to a lack of space for conventions, wedding receptions, meetings, and indoor sports. The center would be run by a board made up of members appointed by local Catholic parishes. The Vincennes Police Merit Commission has suspended an officer following his arrest for operating a motor vehicle while intoxicated. Commission members voted unanimously to suspend Officer Harold Hensley II for 10 days without pay. In addition, Hensley will be placed on 6 months probation and must submit to random drug tests. Commission President Janine Curry says Officer Hensley made a mistake and has to pay the consequences for that mistake. Vincennes Police Chief Bob Dunham added 5 days to Hensley's suspension for a total of 15 days. Hensley's case is still pending in court. The Vincennes Police Merit Commission nearly exhausted its hiring list shortly after finalizing the list of candidates yesterday. Commission President Janine Curry says one of the candidates has already been eliminated because he turns 36 years old this month. Another applicant is in the process of testing to fill the vacancy on the police department. That leaves 3 names on their current eligibility list, and Curry says they may have more vacancies to fill if 2 officers leave for the Indiana State Police. Commission members voted to extend the deadline for accepting applications to August 1st. The Indiana State Police hope a big pay raise for new troopers will help attract more people to the force. Governor Daniels announced today that incoming state troopers will get a starting salary of over $39,000, a 20% increase. 36 new troopers were sworn in today. Prosecutors have charged a fired Nashville police officer with drug dealing. 32-year-old Robert Easterday Jr. of Bloomington faces 7 drug-related charges, including dealing in crack cocaine and attempting to sell psilocybin mushrooms between September and January. He's being held in the Brown County Jail on $20,000 bond. Nashville Town Marshal Jack Dorsett suspended Easterday from the police force in February. The town council later fired the 7-year veteran for dereliction of duty. An advocacy group says more and more graduates are being priced out of careers in teaching, social work, and other modestly paying public service careers. The reason? High college debt. The report from the Indiana Public Interest Research Group says 28% of public university graduates and 46% of private college graduates in Indiana would face unmanageable debt payments on a starting teacher's salary. The report says 2/3 of college graduates now have student loans, up from 1/3 in 1993. The report calls on the government to increase grants, create more affordable loan repayment terms, and give colleges incentives to control tuition costs. 8th District Democratic Congressional candidate Brad Ellsworth paid another visit to Vincennes today, this time to promote the Pledge Protection Act. Ellsworth says the measure would protect an individual's right to affirm their beliefs and pledge their allegiance to the flag. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in San Francisco has ruled the Pledge of Allegiance is unconstitutional when recited in the classroom and certain other locations because it uses the phrase, "one nation under God." On the immigration front, Ellsworth says he believes persons who enter the U.S. illegally should be deported. He says he also thinks American companies should be held accountable for hiring illegal workers. The Vincennes Civitan Club presented its Citizen of the Year award to Charlotte Hendricks during a luncheon at Vincennes University yesterday. Hendricks has helped many causes, holding numerous civic and community leadership positions, including president for the United Way of Knox County Board of Directors. She also served 3 times as chairman of the United Way campaign. Still to come on Newscenter 22, the Senate has pushed aside a compromise immigration reform bill, and in the aftermath of more Iraqi bloodshed, the U.S. ambassador says Iraq will fall into sectarian civil war unless a unity government is forged soon. Stay with us.
Tune in to WVUT this Saturday night. Join us for Red Skelton at 7. At 7:30, 22 Magazine tells us how VU students won the top 3 places in a national technology competition. Then the colorful history of Vincennes is the topic of a new book. At 8, watch WVUT's a rebroadcast of the 40th annual Miss Vincennes University Scholarship Program, Saturday night on WVUT.
A bill that would offer the hope of citizenship to millions of illegal immigrants won't be passing anytime soon. The Senate has sidetracked the sweeping immigration legislation just a day after a carefully constructed compromise was put together, one that supporters claim could win an overwhelming majority. It didn't come close. The bill got just 38 of the 60 votes it needed to protect it from opponent-sponsored amendments. An alternative bill from Majority Leader Bill Frist, which has no provision to let illegal immigrants stay and imposes fines on employers who hire them, received even less support in a test vote. President Bush is pushing lawmakers to keep trying to reach an agreement. There are leaks and then there are leaks. The White House is drawing a distinction between the leaking of information that's in the public interest and the leaking of information that threatens U.S. security. It isn't challenging claims that President Bush authorized the leaking of pre-war intelligence information on Iraq. President Bush is threatening to use his first veto against any congressional budget bills that don't cut federal spending. In brief remarks at the White House, the president says rolling back spending is critical to fulfilling his promise and cutting the deficit in half by 2009. He's also calling on Congress to show its trust in the American people, and he makes his tax-cutting package permanent. House Republican leaders have pulled a nearly $2.8 trillion budget blueprint from the floor after feuds over the tax cuts within the GOP. As Congress heads into a 2-week break, the budget logjam threatens to send Republicans into election season with deficits climbing and no plan to contain them. New lows for President Bush and the Republican-led Congress in the latest Associated Press Ipsos approval poll. The numbers also show Republicans now are tied with Democrats on question of which party people trust to protect the country. Just 36% of the public approves of Bush's drought performance, his lowest ever rating in AP Ipsos polling. Only 30% approve of Congress's job performance, and Republicans seem to be taking the blame. By a 49-33 margin, the public favors Democrats over Republicans when asked which party should control Congress. That 16-point Democratic advantage is the largest the party has enjoyed in AP Ipsos polling. The number of dead from today's mosque attack in Baghdad continues to climb. Police now say at least 79 people were killed and more than 160 were wounded. Police say the attack was carried out by 2 suicide attackers who blew themselves up while wearing women's robes. The preacher at the mosque says there were 3 attackers who struck as worshipers leaving a prayer service. The preacher says Sunni politicians and clerics are waging a campaign of distortions and lies against the mosque. Today's attack comes just 1 day after a car bomb exploded near the most sacred Shiite Muslim shrine in Iraq. 10 people were killed in that attack. In the aftermath of more Iraqi bloodshed, the U.S. ambassador says Iraq will fall into sectarian civil war unless a unity government is forged soon. 52 people are now counted dead in a suicide attack on a Shiite mosque. A U.S. member has also died after being wounded on patrol in Baghdad. 3 Americans have been wounded by a suicide attacker in Afghanistan today. Their injuries are described as minor. The attack detonated a car bomb at a U.S. convoy in southern Afghanistan. 2 American service members were hurt, along with a civilian contractor. The explosion occurred in an area considered a hub of Afghanistan's drug trade and Taliban rebellion. A Canadian contractor working in Iraq has defied the odds. Surviving a deadly ambush of his truck convoy, people all around him were shot and killed. He thought he was next, until U.S. soldiers showed up in the nick of time. Brian Todd reports.
From the driver's seat, a chilling look at the dangers of being a contract truck driver in Iraq. Watch the upper left of the windshield and what happens on that side of the screen. A bullet is about to go right through the glass. God damn! September 20th, 2005. Canadian Lauren Bradshaw and about a dozen other drivers are moving near Baghdad. They have a U.S. Army escort, but are accidentally led down a dead-end road. On the way back out, an ambush.
Jesus Christ.
Bradshaw, a driver for the American company Kellogg Brown & Root, is told over the radio, keep moving, but his truck has stalled.
I am truck 5 cannot move. Please help me.
The whole time, Bradshaw is videotaping the attack. His wife, Joanne, tells CNN 3 other drivers were killed, 3 seriously injured.
And he saw his friend being dragged out and stoned first, and the guy is yelling, pleading for his life, and then they shot him in the back of the head.
But Joanne Bradshaw says U.S. Army troops got there in time to rescue Lauren. He was unhurt physically. His emotions are another story.
He's messed up right now. Everything has changed in him. Even his sense of humor is more, I don't know, cut and cold. Yeah, he's changing.
Joanne Bradshaw tells us her husband is still seeing psychiatrists back in Iraq. Despite her pleas for him to stay home, he went back there after a short trip home for Christmas. She says money has nothing to do with it. He wants to fulfill his responsibilities. He was there about a year and a half before this incident occurred. And a couple of months earlier, his wife tells us, his truck got blown up by a roadside bomb. In that incident, she says, he was also rescued by the U.S. Army. Brian Todd, CNN, Washington.
Israel today bombed 2 offices it claims belong to the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades, a Palestinian militant group. It also shelled areas it believed were used to launch rockets, and Israel launched an airstrike against a helicopter pad. An Israeli military spokesperson says the strikes are in response to the continuous launching of rockets from Gaza at Israel. No casualties were reported from any of the incidents. Millions of outspoken Chinese are taking to the internet. So many, in fact, they are testing the limits of government censors. Mike Chenoy looks at how a growing number of people in China are using the internet to express their inner voice.
In her tiny Shanghai apartment, Nini is singing her heart out, pouring her emotions into her music, and then putting her music online. Nini is one of a growing army of podcasters in China. I want to create more good songs, she says. I want to reach a broad audience so I can develop myself.
This is something that's really hot and going on.
From a converted warehouse in downtown Shanghai, U.S.-educated computer engineer Gary Wong runs China's largest podcasting website, Tudou, which means potato. Here you can find not only Nini's songs, but postings from thousands of other Chinese podcasts.
95% of them are just people randomly, they thought about something and they want to record it through audio or video. I think this is very much self-expression.
In China's new wired world, self-expression takes many forms. Miming to your favorite pop song, producing goofy home videos, poking fun at classic Chinese novels, compiling gritty depictions of ordinary life, and an irreverent takeoff on state-run television's evening newscast. None of them openly political, but by Chinese standards, all of them unconventional. With tens of millions of people online in China and thousands of new bloggers and podcasters signing up every day, the communist authorities have put the burden on the internet providers to police and censor the web.
We have a bunch of volunteers and internal staff who are doing the censoring. And the guidelines are very simple. You make sure that we don't show the pornographical stuff or the things that obviously will be a problem.
The government's effort to control the internet has been dubbed the Great Firewall of China. Internet entrepreneur Isaac Mao, who himself runs a blog hosting company, crashed head-on into it when his blog, isaacmao.com, was blocked.
Actually, I talk about some technical stuff about this filtering mechanism.
How to get around the filtering.
Yeah. Okay. So actually, it's also sensitive.
But Isaac is back online now with a new blog called notisaacmao.com. So far, it hasn't been censored. It's one of so many new blogs, Isaac says the authorities simply can't control them all.
You cannot control anyone's voice. Yeah, it's eventually distributed and free.
Unfortunately, you do see a lot of these things being taken down or being censored. But what's true is, of one piece that's censored, there are probably 9 million other pieces, similar pieces, or slightly less colorful pieces that are, or more colorful, who knows, right? But that are out there on the internet.
Podcasting and blogging aren't going to topple the Chinese Communist Party, that's for sure, but they are testing the limits, creating networks of like-minded people, and giving millions of Chinese a chance to voice their feelings that they've never had before. Mike Chenoy, CNN, Shanghai.
An author who challenged the originality of the Da Vinci Code says he may have lost on the letter of the law, but not the spirit. A British judge says novelist Dan Brown didn't violate copyright law when he reworked ideas that were also expressed in a nonfiction book by Richard Lee and a co-writer. Still to come on Newscenter 22, Amy Reef has the weekend forecast.
Hi, I'm Mark Wahlberg. Join me as we discover the hidden treasures of North Dakota.
I talked to a lot of people about it, and everybody said, wow.
Unfortunately, I don't think it's authentic. The artist wasn't French at all. He was born in Brooklyn.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
Wow.
Oh, my.
Ouch.
Don't miss these treasures and much more on Antiques Roadshow from Bismarck.
Well, I mean, we had some nasty weather today. When will it stop so we can get back to the weather we had yesterday?
Well, actually, some more severe weather is still on the way. I actually have some severe thunderstorm warnings to pass along to you, issued by the National Weather Service. Greene County, Indiana is under a severe thunderstorm warning until 6:15 p.m., Davies County, Indiana until 5:30 p.m., and Martin County, Indiana also until 5:30 p.m. This is a dangerous storm moving southeast at 55 miles per hour. Now let's go ahead and take a look outside to our tower cam. Currently have partly sunny skies, 66 degrees, wind southwest at 18 miles per hour. The humidity is at 52% and the barometric pressure is at 29.53 and falling. Let's take a look at some area temperatures. Evansville, Indiana, sunny at 81 degrees. Sullivan, partly cloudy, 77 degrees. Princeton, partly cloudy as well, 79. And over in Illinois, Awney, sunny at 77 degrees. Now let's take a look at our national temperature map. Things continuing to heat up down south, pretty hot and humid for the folks down there. Currently, Houston, Texas is at 92 degrees. Cooler temperatures continuing to hold on around the Rockies. We have Casper, Wyoming at just 36 degrees. And out on the west coast, temperatures averaging in the 50s and the 60s. San Francisco is at 58 degrees. Now let's take a look at our surface map. As you can see, very active in the northeast as one system continues to push its way out to the coast, another one waiting to work its way in. But the big story, strong to severe thunderstorms continue pushing their way through the Midwest with the threat of possible tornadoes, intense lightning, large hail, and gusty winds. Now, there are some thunderstorm warnings, which I told you about earlier, but also tornado warnings and tornado watches popping up all along Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee. And those are very dangerous, so if you're in the path of these storms, you want to make sure that you seek shelter. But I do have some uplifting information to tell you. Out west, we have a system of high pressure working its way in, going to be bringing us some sunshine and some warmer temperatures, which we can expect to see over the weekend. Now let's take a look at your forecast. Tonight, thunderstorms with a low of 39 degrees. Tomorrow, mostly sunny with a high of 53. Tomorrow night, mostly clear with a low of 31. And a look at your extended forecast. Sunny skies with a high of 61 and a low of 36. Monday, sunny skies as well, high of 67, low of 48. And for Tuesday, partly cloudy skies with a high of 72 and a low of 55. And Kurt, that's a look at your weather.
Thanks, Amy. Still to come on News Center 22, former IU coach Mike Davis is going home, and Purdue names a new women's basketball coach. Kristen Miller will have all the details coming up in sports.
Marry a millionaire? Get real. Real college, real experience, real careers, really fast. Vincennes University Preview Days, April 21st or 22nd. Register at winu.edu.
Win the lottery? Get real. Real college, real experience, real careers, really fast. Vincennes University Preview Days, April 21st and 22nd. Go to winu.edu.
Davis returns home. Good evening, everyone. For TV 22 Sports, I'm Kristen Miller. Former Indiana coach Mike Davis is returning to his home state of Alabama to take over UAB's basketball program. Davis was introduced as the new coach at a news conference this afternoon. The 45-year-old Davis, a native of Fayette who played for Alabama, replaces Mike Anderson, who left the Blazers to become coach at Missouri. Davis led Indiana to the 2002 National Championship game after taking over the teams following Bob Knight's firing. Sharon Versip will return to the Boilermakers as the women's basketball coach after 1 year at rival Indiana. She succeeds Christy Curry, who resigned last week to become the coach at Texas Tech. Versip led the Hoosiers to a 19-14 record and a 9-7 mark in the Big Ten. She returned to her home state last year after compiling a 98-51 record and 3 America East Conference championships in her 5 years as the coach at Maine. Purdue basketball coach Matt Painter has a new 1-year contract extension through the 2010-2011 campaign, despite the Boilermakers' 9-19 record in his first season on their bench. 3 of his expected starters suffered knee injuries, and 2 other players were suspended, leading the schools to the last place in the Big Ten in 40 years. Just weeks after making their first ever NCAA tournament appearance, Army women's basketball team has lost its coach. 28-year-old Maggie Dixon died after suffering what's described as an arrhythmic episode to her heart. She made quite an impression during her 7-month tenure at West Point. School Superintendent Lieutenant General Williams Lennox Jr. says, "In a house of leaders, she stood out." The Detroit Pistons' grasp on home court advantage throughout the NBA playoffs has tightened. Rasheed Wallace returned from a 1-game suspension to score 20 points in a 95-82 win over the Miami Heat. Tayshaun Prince also scored 20 as the Pistons won their 6th in a row and improved to 61-14. They're 3 games ahead of idle San Antonio in the race for the NBA's best record. Dwayne Wade led Miami with 29 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 assists. Carmelo Anthony nailed a jumper with 3.8 seconds in overtime to give the Denver Nuggets a 110-108 victory over the Los Angeles Lakers. Anthony scored 33 points for the Nuggets, who have a magic number of 2 to clinch their first division title since the 1987-88 season. Kobe Bryant led the Lakers with 42 points. Coach Rick Carlisle hopes the permanent addition of point guard Anthony Johnson to the starting lineup will pay immediate dividends when the Indiana Pacers face the New York Knicks. The Pacers snapped a 5-game losing streak with a 111-103 victory over Toronto on Wednesday, with Johnson starting in place of injured Tinsley. Jimmy Rollins' pursuit of baseball immortality has ended at the hands of the St. Louis Cardinals. In the Redbirds' 4-2 win over the Phillies yesterday, Rollins' hitting streak was stopped at 38 games. Jason Markey pitched a 5 1/3 effective innings and drove in a run with a double. Jim Edmonds singled in the go-ahead run in the Cardinals' 4-run fifth. St. Louis dropped the opener of a weekend series in Chicago today, losing to the Cubs 5-1 at Wrigley Field. Tempers flared in New York as the Mets topped Washington 10-5. Benches and bullpens cleared when Jose Guillen pointed his bat at Pedro Martinez and charged halfway to the mound after getting hit in the game for the second time. Guillen was corralled by plate umpire Ted Barrett and Mets catcher Paula Duca, but no punches were thrown. Carlos Beltran clubbed a 2-run homer in the victory. Adam Dunn hit a 479-foot home run that bounced out of Great American Ballpark and hit a passing car. And Cincinnati topped Pittsburgh 6-5. The Pirates are 0-4 for the first time since 1994. Former Pirate Rick White got the win in relief, and the loss went to Mike Gonzalez. Brandon Phillips won the starting second base job for the Cleveland Indians in 2003, but was sent down to the minors at the All-Star break and spent most of the past 2 years at AAA Buffalo. Today, the Indians traded the 24-year-old infielder to the Cincinnati Reds for a player to be named or cash. Chad Campbell has the second-round clubhouse lead at the Masters at 6 under after today's 5 under 67. First-round leader Vijay Singh had back-to-back double bogeys on the 4th and 5th holes and has fallen 2 shots off the pace. Phil Mickelson is at -2 after an even 72 par and is tied with Ernie Els, who carded a 71. The Indianapolis Colts will open the 2006 season at the New York Giants in a matchup of Manning brothers, but they'll have to wait until the playoffs for a chance for revenge against Super Bowl champion Pittsburgh. The NFL released its 2006 schedule yesterday. The September 10th opener at New York is part of NBC's new Sunday night package and will feature the Colts' Peyton Manning against his younger brother Eli. And Kurt, that's what's happening in the world of sports.
Thanks, Kristen. Still to come in Newscenter 22, it's a first for the Rolling Stones. The legendary rock group has now arrived in Shanghai for its first concert in mainland China. Stay with us.
Coming up this week on 22 Magazine, we'll learn more about 3 advanced manufacturing students at Vincennes University who recently placed first, second, and third in a recent national technology competition. And Dan Ravelette, Vincennes Mayor Terry Mooney's chief of staff, will be here to talk about a new project to get school kids to color and remember the city's history. The next time on 22 Magazine, Saturday night at 7:30 on WVUT.
Mick Jagger says he isn't surprised by the request from Chinese officials that the Rolling Stones not play 5 songs at their debut concert in China. Authorities there have objected to Brown Sugar, Honky Tonk Woman, Beast of Burden, and Let's Spend the Night Together, presumably because of suggestive lyrics. Jagger says the omissions shouldn't be a big deal because, as he put it, we have 400 more songs that we can play. And that's all for this evening. Join us again next week for Amy Reef and Kristen Miller. I'm Kurt Maddox. All you need now is a good night. Good night.